All right, so let's start with the rapid fire round. The first question is, at what age do you want to retire?
I don't know yet. I guess as early as possible.
How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
20 minutes.
Most embarrassing moment of your life?
I don't know really, I have to admit, right now.
Favorite color?
Blue.
What time of day are you most inspired?
In the morning.
How many hours of sleep can you survive on?
Yeah, I guess between 6 and 8.
Fill in the blank. An upcoming technology trend is blank.
Matter.
The city in which the best kiss of your life happened.
Haha, Athens, Greece.
Pick one, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk.
Haha, okay. Oh, good question. I guess Mark Zuckerberg.
How do you relax?
How am I relaxing? Fishing.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Too many.
A habit of yours that you don't like?
A habit of mine that I don't like. Always saying yes.
The most valuable skill you've learned in life?
Being, communicative and flexible.
Your favorite Netflix show?
My favorite Netflix show. Oh boy. What was it called? I don't remember the name right now. No, I don't remember. So.
One word description of your leadership style?
My description of leadership style, moderating, I would call it.
Memorable career milestone?
Yeah, I just had this, taking over, a product from another business unit in Bosch.
All right, well, that's the end of the rapid fire round. I'll go on to the normal questions that you can answer with as much ease and time as you like. The first one is, you have 20 years of experience in designing and developing innovative solutions across IoT. How has the IoT landscape evolved during your career? And what trends do you find most exciting today?
Okay. So, when I started in 2001, right? So, it was a company called Bosch Software, and we were focusing already on IoT middleware for embedded devices. Back in the days, we didn't use the term IoT, right? So that was, coming in 2005, 2006. But in principle, we already did, what we do today, connect, devices via gateways. And I think what has changed is really, that a lot of new technologies have come into play. Now, most recently, Matter, which I think is a great development, right? What we also have seen is, over the years, the importance of, cloud, like for storing, analyzing data, managing devices, but then also coming back to the edge devices. We have as much as possible, business logic on the device near to the asset if you want, right? So there has been, lots of, I wouldn't say it even advancement, but it's like, we are coming back to what we, started, if you want, to some extent, right? And in 2001, I remember very well, we had a solution, in my opinion, for a problem that did not exist. Yeah. So because nobody really wanted to connect, their assets. We're talking to car OEMs, for example, right? And like offering an open IoT middleware for cars was like, a total no-go to them. It was like evil, if you want, right? So I think today what excites me about IoT is, how open the environment has become, if you want. Also companies collaborating, technology enabling this, right? I think where we need to still get better is like, getting the business models to fly for everybody, right? So.
And are there any other problems that don't exist yet for which you think you already have solutions?
Yeah, I don't know if there are any problems that do not exist, but we have a solution. But in principle, what we are good at is doing software updates on embedded devices. Yeah. Managing these devices remotely and connecting devices. This, I would call it, is at least my daily business, if you want, right? And this is always changing, obviously, right? So new technologies come in, right? You need to do this on different cloud environments and so on. So I think what you have to do is stay flexible, also in technical terms. Yeah.
So could you share some insights into your work in smart home technology and energy management?
I mean, when I started at Prozis back then, right, so which Bosch acquired in 2015, I would say smart home was our biggest market, right? So back then, we were talking about technologies like Z-Wave, Zigbee, and so on to connect devices in the homes. Today, I think the most exciting development to me is Matter, which is basically an evolution of Zigbee and Thread, right? Where also other big players participate, namely Google, Apple, Amazon, and so on, right? Which, in my opinion, really helps us to build a truly interoperable ecosystem. We still have to see how it will play out. We are still in early stages, but I believe this is a very big step forward. And in terms of energy management, in Germany we have a technology that is called EEBus, which is basically enabling devices at home, be it energy consumers or energy producers, to communicate with each other. This enables various use cases for e-mobility, for white good appliances, and so on, right? Many other types of devices, also HVAC. And I think this is also very crucial. Yeah? And so we do have, a lot of customers that basically use our Bosch IoT Edge services, which is implementing this EEBus technology. Yeah? In order to avoid all these issues that are, coming with, a large rollout of electric vehicles and so on, right?
So in your view, how do consumer preferences and demands influence the direction of innovation in the smart home technology sector?
Yeah, I mean, you see this really in the sense, which devices are on mass market devices, really, right? So I mean, with Alexa or the Echo devices, with the Apple and Google, devices, yeah, right? And I think, with this, you collect a lot of inputs, yeah, what users really want to do at home, right? And I believe, it's sort of a sad thing in the end, but, the war in Ukraine also forced us to really, think about how we can reduce energy at home, right? How can we, optimize heating and all this, right? And I believe there's still a lot of innovation, coming, from basically bringing all the different assets that you have in a home together, and to analyze this, and to learn, and then also implement new features on top of it, right? So which in turn really shall bring new optimizations, right?
So let's talk about something else. You're a founding member of several open source initiatives. What drives your passion for open source projects?
So I mean, generally, I've always been, basically since the beginning, as I joined Prozis Software, a big believer in open standards, right? So because this is really, what brings, the community together, right? Which, allows you to build ecosystems, right? And so open standards is one way. Open source is the other way, right? And so Bosch has been for many years already a big promoter of, for example, the Eclipse Foundation, right? So we have several open source projects, which is the foundation of our IoT platform, right? And so we do this for several reasons. One is also for pure internal reasons, because working within, Bosch between different business units, you always have, the struggle who owns which IP, for example, right? So with this, we solve this problem basically, if you want, right? And Bosch also from early on recognized, we cannot do this alone, right? So we need ecosystems, and we need a community, let's say, around our platforms, if you want. And in our opinion, open source is the way to go.
So in your experience, what role does telematics play in vehicle-to-vehicle and vehicle-to-infrastructure communication? How is this technology shaping the future of transportation and safety?
I think this is, a very changing environment right now, right? So if you look at what is happening in cars, also what the OEMs now do, right? So coming up with their new operating systems, in-car operating systems, various software-defined vehicle initiatives, and so on. The fact that 5G is now, coming or there, if you want, right? So. All this in the end will play towards car-to-car, car-to-infrastructure communication, enabling new services for safety, right? But also, what you call it, location-based services, if you want, right? And we are, for example, working on connected tires right now, which we believe is also, a big thing which is highly underestimated, right? Because a tire is a tire, right? But if you connect it, you can basically add value to it, not just for safety, but also for fuel or energy consumption in the end, right? I think, we still have to see how this ecosystem will play out, right? But cars will be connected, cars will be electric, cars will be, software defined, right? So we'll have to see.
So tires collecting data seems like a really new concept. Could you talk more on the technology and sensors involved in this data collection process?
Sure. So the way this works today, right? So we focus as of now on, for example, trucks, agriculture vehicles, this sort of vehicles where you have like an immediate benefit, where you have companies with fleets, So we basically put a sensor in the tire. It doesn't have to come from Bosch. Also, lots of tire manufacturers already have their own sensors, right? But what they lack today is really the capability to combine this with data that is coming from the car. And this is where, Bosch comes into play, right? So because we can provide, for example, a telematics unit, we can connect, let's say, the sensor basically, collect the data from the car, see, with analytics, what's the wear and tear of the tire, can, give recommendations for like how much pressure, the tire should have in order, for example, to reduce fuel consumption and things like this, right? So it's rather simple. In the sensor itself, talks Bluetooth Low Energy. Today could also be some other wireless technology. Then we have a receiving unit that collects the data, and then the telematics unit basically, combines data from the vehicle with the tire sensor, and we send it, if you want, to the cloud to do some, analytics around it and give, recommendations, warnings, whatever is necessary.
So real-time analytics is often discussed, but what are the specific challenges in implementing it? And how does it differ from analyzing historical data?
Yeah, the thing is, it depends. It's like a broad question here, right? But depending on the use case, right, you get a lot of data. Most cases, unstructured data, right? So they could come from multiple sources, right? So there could be, data from the tire. There could be weather information that you get from the cloud, if you want, from a service, and so on, right? And especially in safety critical use cases, right? So you need this real-time capability, right? And that means basically you have to do this as close to the edge, yeah, where the use case is happening, right? So that's basically what we try to do, right? Use the analytics, yeah. We get unstructured data from different sources. We sort of do our analytics at the edge, right, and then basically add value to the specific use case.
So could you share a specific project or use case where Bosch has successfully implemented real-time analytics, demonstrating its benefits in practice?
I mean, there are probably many use cases that I'm not even aware of, right? So the tire, use case is one example, right? So especially for safety critical, use cases, right? So the tire is about to blow, for example, right? So I mean, this you don't want to get from the cloud, right? But there are also many use cases, especially in factories, right? So where you get like lots of data from multiple machines, right? You want to do like predictive maintenance, for example, right? So meaning, for example, one machine, let's just say it's heating up for unknown reason, yeah? And you want to sort of, analyze what is the root cause, right? This is what you can do basically, if done right, yeah, what you can do with real-time analytics at the edge, right?
So let's talk a bit about SaaS and PaaS. So SaaS and PaaS are crucial components of modern software development. How do these services contribute to the success of IoT projects, and what challenges do developers face when working with them?
Yeah, I think this is a good question, because I mean, if you look at it, what has happened in the past few months, I guess, right? So many players, basically, let's say, stop their IoT business, or there is some kind of consolidation ongoing, right? And I believe one of the reasons is really, especially when you have a SaaS or a PaaS offering, you have infrastructure cost, right? So I mean, you build it for a large amount of customers, for large amounts of data coming in, and so on, right? I think the problem that many players had is really the fact that this was too expensive, and they didn't get any profit, or not enough profit out of it, right? I believe it's still crucial to have IoT platforms as a service available, right? Especially when you start with small volumes, right? But what we do see now is that a lot of customers are interested in, for example, on-premise deployments to manage their cost in a better way, if you want, right? So that's, I guess, my answer to this.
So what advice would you give to organizations seeking to navigate the complex landscape of SaaS and PaaS integration within their IoT initiatives?
I mean, it depends on the maturity, obviously, right? So if you start from zero, I would suggest to get advice, right? So, I mean, it doesn't need to be like an expensive, let's say, a consulting company, right? But companies that have experience, in building, deploying this type of systems, I would call it, right? And discuss the use case, discuss potential deployment models, and what it means in terms of costs, right? And so on, right? I mean, in the end, right? So the business model is crucial, right? So and you need to, let's say, obviously start small, but you need to think how you grow and how also your costs develop, right? And this is difficult exercise, obviously, right?
So ambient assisted living is an area of growing importance, especially in aging societies. How can IoT technologies improve the quality of life for elderly individuals?
I think, I mean, since I've done my first ambient assisted living projects in the early 2000s, if you want, right? So in the end, right? So there's a lot that can be done for safety, if you want, for the elderly people, right? So be it sleep, be it if they fall or so, right? But also to keep them active, so that they are not bored at home and so on, right? So the problem really is not the technology. Technology is already there. There are many companies that have offerings, right? From connected pillows to fall sensors, you name it, right? The problem is really on the, I would call it, user side, and by this I mean actually the acceptance of using this technology, right? Because elderly people feel, let's say, monitored, right? It's in some cases maybe even too modern for them, because they feel like they have to adjust let's say their lifestyle, if you want, right? And that's, I think, the challenge. You see certain countries where ambient assisted living is really like on the forefront, especially UK comes to my mind, right? But in many other countries, I think it probably will work for our age, yeah. But for the current elderly people, I think it's still a challenge to convince them to accept this kind of technology.
Okay, so the last question for you is of a personal kind. What would you be doing in your life if not this right now?
What would I be doing? That's a good question. I guess, I'm living in Greece, I would probably spend a lot of time at the beach.